for our last session today with Dr. Hill. So I will let you share your screen, Dr. Hill, and you can go ahead and get started. And again, just so excited to hear you speak.
Okay, thank you, Elena. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Elena, we're good?
We can hear you. We haven't seen your screen come up yet, so there it goes. There it goes. You're good.
Awesome, awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are having a great time in the sessions. I did. And I promise you, I will not keep you from your end of day things that you have to do. So um, I will get through this presentation and hopefully we got some great engaging questions at the end. But my presentation is on the master program. All right. And let me see if we get this thing working here. There we go. All right, so agenda for the day, we're going to have introduction of myself, learning outcomes, why we are here. So why did we create the master program, the purpose, the program outcomes, building blocks of the program, implementing the program. I'm share a little bit of data that I have from a previous institution and what we're currently doing here at Durham Tech, and discussion and questions. So about me, I'm Dr. Ulric Hill. I'm director for the Center for Academic Excellence here at Durham Tech Community College. Educator on all levels, K through 12, community college and university levels. I'm very passionate about fostering inclusive environments that support student success. I am very active in my community. Co-founder of DISA, which is developing youth through sports, social skills, and arts. It's a nonprofit, as well as sit on plenty of boards of other nonprofits. One in particular is Brainy Builders, which is a STEM nonprofit out of Clayton, North Carolina. So I'm involved with that as well. So I just love being, like I said, active in my community, working with our youth, and also getting our students to be successful, not only academic success, but the holistic student success. Learning outcomes for this presentation. Participants, you all will gain a clear understanding of the program's purpose, structure, and how it supports student success. You will learn how master coaches, mentor students, facilitate weekly meetings, and implement strategies to enhance motivation, accountability, and academic resilience. Participants will also learn ways to integrate the program, the master program, inside of the academic support services, in particular, content tutoring. So why are we here? Those three big words we did in education that we love to hear, right? Retention, persistence, and graduation. So we know retention measures the percentage of students who continue their studies in an institution from one academic year to the next. For example, fall to fall, right? And we know persistence is when students continue their education regardless of coming back to the same school or transferring out or going to another school. So they continue their enrollment inside of an education of higher learning to reach their goals. And then we look at graduation, which is just what it says, the percentage of students that finish their program, that actually graduate at the end of their program with completion. So we know by students not returning, students not finishing, students dropping out, they face a potential of decline in their academic self-belief. They also start to lose motivation to continue their educational journey. So this is part of where the master program come into play. All right. So what is the purpose of the master program? So the master program is a comprehensive approach to supporting students. We support students in their academic pursuits. We do it by closing the learning gaps, by fostering effective academic skills, by cultivating self-assurance. And we do those things also by prioritizing the executive or the development of the executive function skills. Two of the main executive function skills that we see here is working memory and cognitive flexibility. So those are two of the things that we work on as well inside of our program. So we don't highlight it saying this is we're working on cognitive flexibility today, but the things that we do inside of the program, inside of the sessions, are geared towards the working memory and the flexibility. So the program outcomes. All right. So the expected students. So when students come and work the program, when they come in the program, when they complete the program, when they enroll, participate, and really work the program, these are the outcomes that we expect. We expect the students to improve their grades. We expect for them to improve the academic skills or executive functioning skills that they was lacking. We expect them to improve their attendance and class participation. And we also expect them to improve overall academic performance. So, by really working with students and really building up a sense of accountability within the program, that's why it's very important for students to enroll and participate and complete the program. Just enrolling in the program is not really going to be beneficial because the program is set up to build upon each skill to build upon where they were lacking. The program is set up to build upon that. All right, so we want students to enroll and complete the program. All right, so the building blocks of the master program. So these are the things we want to build upon when we work with our students. So we have motivation. So we want to build an internal drive in each of our students to reach their potential goals, to reach their goals. We want to build that self-motivation. All right, so that's the first thing that we're looking at, that building block, building that self-motivation. And then we mentor. So we want to be that mentor, that person, that safe space for the students to come to beyond the academic realm. So anything that's not, content wise, but eventually it might, if not handled or not addressed, will eventually affect the content, will eventually affect their academic success. So we want them to have that safe space, that mentor that they can come to and they can talk to and they can work with through those issues. Then we also want to promote engagement, showing attention and having students to be curious about their learning. We want them to show an interest in their learning or in their growth. So part of the program is really geared to having conversations about what they want. What would they do next time? What did they do wrong? To help them build an interest in their learning and their success. And then last, we want to build grit. We want to build grit. Being able to overlook obstacles that the students face and maintain their passion and perseverance to their goal. We want them to have that grit. A lot of students say they have it or they say they know what it is, but when they're faced with an obstacle or a problem, they tend to go back to what they're used to doing. And we want them to understand that the grit, they really got to build that to understand that they can do better or they will grow beyond that obstacle, beyond that one problem or opportunity that they face. So within the master program, we have a process, and so we talk about right now how we're going to implement the process. What is involved in implementing the process? We're going to talk about who's involved with implementing the process, and we're going to start giving just some basic steps to implement the program outside of content tutoring and inside of content tutoring. So the first we're going to talk about is who is involved in implementing the master accountability program. So the master program, you have meetings that's involved with a tutor or a coach or master coach, or in my case here at Durham Tech, I have tutors that I've trained to be a master coach. So they're tutors, they're academic tutors, but they also um, help students in the master program as well. And so they meet on a intentionally planned interaction. It's not just a pop up. They meet, they schedule, they plan out. They hold the student, the coach hold the students accountable um, for the things that they ask them to do or the things they're working on. We do that through what we call course trackers, priority task checklists. So when we meet with the students, we go over some things and they create a task list. And this helps the coach to really hold the student accountable to what they said they're going to do and when they're going to do it. We have conversations dealing with academic skills. So a lot of our conversations start out, we have a conversation with the student, and we want the student to be to drive the conversation. So we'll help facilitate the conversation and to put the conversation in a way that the student is actually understanding that they have an issue with a certain academic skill or a certain skill set they need help with. That way, that student then now start to have that accountability, that responsibility of, okay, I know I have this issue, so what can I do to really go forth and be better and to improve on this issue? There is an initial meeting. The initial meeting is with the coach and the student. The coach and the student get together and they develop a weekly meeting plan or a weekly schedule, a weekly plan to meet. And then, they can hold meetings inside an individual, but if we have more than one or two students that have the same skill set that they need to work on, we can also hold meetings in a pod, small groups. And this is very beneficial, as you hear when I talk about it, and I start talking about some of my data points. It's very beneficial to hold meetings in the small groups, because then not only am the coach, not only is the coach holding the student accountable, but now the students, they're being held accountable by their peers. So it's a big family, it's a big circle, and we come into that circle and we're talking about development, we're talking about these skills, we're talking about these, how not to procrastinate, and so they're holding each other accountable inside of those sessions. All right. Now, when we talk about implementing the program, when we implement the full program, well, there's an initial meeting that's held, and we just talked about what goes on in the initial meeting. In the initial meeting, the student and the coach both have input, right? But the input is really driven by the student. The coach is there to facilitate, to really just guide the conversation, but we really want the student to really facilitate, to really sit there and drive and understand what they're talking about. So we start out with a worksheet. We have what we call a master plan, a master worksheet that helps the student to identify if they have an issue with an academic skill, if they have an issue with time management, if they have an issue with study skills, or not knowing how to take notes, or reading comprehension, or just anything that they might have that's an academic skill. It will help them identify that. It will also help them identify if they're actually having some difficulties in the executive function realm of things as well. So this initial meeting is very important. And the initial meeting normally takes about an hour, hour and 30 minutes. All depends on the student. All depends on the student and what direction that they want to go. Both the master coach and the student complete, say, a worksheet, and then they sign off on it. The meeting is scheduled. The weekly meeting is then scheduled, and they meet with the student every week from then on. And in this meeting, the student and coaches, they start to have conversations about the academic skills area in which the student needs to improve. We have lessons plans that's already built as well. So the master coach have the lesson plan. However, the lesson plan is just a guide. Only thing I ask my coach, my master coaches, is that they use the lesson plan, but don't take away from it. They can add to it, but don't take away from it. The lesson plan is a basic guide. So we want them to make sure that they're touching those things, but then they can add to it if the need arises. So based on the evaluation worksheet and the conversation, the student and coach create a plan. They both sign the plan, and then the meeting starts. All right. Then the curriculum. The curriculum includes topics on academic skills and executive function skills and written reflection. So every meeting that our student have with our coach should end in some type of written reflection. We want the students to get in the habit of writing and sharing instead of just summarizing out loud. We know once they write it, then hopefully they start to take ownership of what they're writing. Okay, so after then, follow up is very important. So the master coaches, they're very important that they follow up with the student. So follow up is on attendance, homework completion, classroom behavior, and study hours. So if a student is under the program, the master coach will follow with the student. Attendance is normally weekly. Homework completion is weekly because we have what we call a task list or completion list or compliance checklist. So those things that they'll be able to do that weekly. The homework completion, be able to do it weekly. Classroom behavior, that we can, they do that because if the student don't have a student conduct, or if the instructor haven't reached out to us about classroom behavior, then we normally that's normally okay with that. But then the study hours is very important. Every master student, so every student that's in the program, they're required to do study hours. That could be 5 hours inside of the tutoring center, 5 hours inside of the library, but they're required to do study hours. And so the coach will follow up and to ensure that those study hours are being completed. All right. So if groups of students are in a pod, then they can complete those studies hours together as part of that pod as well, as part of that group. So as long as they got 5 hours of study time per week, they can have more, but they got to at least have a minimum of structured 5 hours of study time on campus. Whether, like I said, it could be in the tutoring center, it could be in a group study room, or it could be in the library. So during each session, um, during each session, the coach and the student will be working on the academic autonomy and the independence of the student. All right. So these are the lessons or the topics that we have throughout just the lesson plan that we put out in the master program. The student will have more responsibility to identify and respond to the situations with less involvement from the coach. So throughout the meetings, we want the involvement of the coach to start to be less active. All right? We want the student to have more responsibility to identify and respond to situations. This is an attempt to scaffold behaviors so that they may function independently and become functional problem solvers rather than always depending on someone to suggest a solution. So the curriculum is tailored based to each student based off their need. So, for example, a student may only need 2 out of these 10 skills. They may only need communication and time management. So those are the 2 that the meetings will focus on. But if the worksheet look and the student need help with 5 of these, then that coach and that student will actually draw up a plan to actually work all 5 of those topics. So we want to make sure that we understand where the students are and what they need to be successful. Each topic allows for engagement through a written reflection. So at the end of each lesson, like I said, we make sure that we have a written reflection, and in that reflection, it's what did they do, what did they not do, okay? Did they truly try to work on the skill that was discussed in the meeting, right? So if they did, what worked or what didn't work when they was working on the skill? And then finally, what would the student be doing going forward? So these are the questions that we want that student to answer inside of that reflection. getting the student to understand where they are um, currently and where they need to go. And if something didn't work, why did it not work? All right, not just don't say it didn't work, but why did it not work? So we can move and move forward and continue growth with the student. So these topics can also be integrated, like I say, in content tutoring, all right, when necessary. So we get a lot of our students here in the tutoring in the Center for Academic Excellence. We get students that they come to us because they think they have a content problem. They think that they don't understand math or don't understand biology or or don't understand the writing process, right? When we get them here, then when we start working with them, we start to find out that it's not that they don't understand math, but they have some academic issues outside of the classroom that's affecting them in their studies for math. So whether it's knowing how to study for math, knowing how to take notes in math, um, knowing how to manage their time. When they start to study, and so we go over a lot of our time management um, strategies, and we do a lot of a study skill strategies as well to really push the students to understand where they are and what they're doing wrong. And like I said, we want the students to take responsibility. And so that's why these weekly meetings are very important. But now in the content tutoring, you'll see. I'm going to show you an example of a lesson plan, and we'll walk through it of a content tutoring session in which we implement the master program. So what I'm doing here at Durham Tech is I am really about a year ago, I looked at our tutoring sessions, and I really encourage and charge my tutors to make sure that they are putting in a nugget of academic skills in every session. So don't just tutor on the content and allow the student to go out of out of our center not knowing how to review, not knowing how to study what y'all just went over. So I've really charged my tutoring staff to put a nugget in on academic skills. So what I'm doing now is hopefully is starting in the fall, we'll be training them to implement the master program inside of their session. Now, this will not be for every tutor. We have some tutors that will not be able to do this. All right. And I understand that because doing this is going to take some a skill set. All right. That a lot of some tutors might not have. So we're going to talk about that right now. So you see here, it requires balance, efficiency, and intentional integration. All right. So understanding that is that so those are the two. So understanding that I got to find tutors that I know that already have that balance, efficiency, and can intentionally integrate this plan inside of their content tutoring session. Now, hopefully, by the end of the year, all of the tutors will be trained to do this. We hold tutor training sessions once a month here in my center. So, part of this year we'll be doing this here. We'll be training on the master program inside how to integrate it inside of a tutoring session. All right. So we look at here. This is a first part of a tutoring session. So we start with a warm up. The warm up is about 5 to 10 minutes, and it is the executive function check in. This is where we look at the executive function. We do a quick review of the goals. I start by asking, "What's your goal?" or "What's our goal for today?" And then we start to help the student prioritize the goals. All right. Then we look at time management strategies. I have the student estimate how long each task will take, and then we start to build awareness of the pacing. All right. So all of this is just a 5 to 10 minute warm up. So it's not anything real in depth. Not anything that we really got to really go into 30 and 40 minutes. This is just a quick warm up to get the students' mind, working, getting them thinking and stuff. And then we do a quick reflection. We ask, how did you prepare for the day? What strategies have you worked on or what strategy you haven't worked on. All right, and this start to build that that metacognition and that recognition of what they have, what they need to work on. So it start to build that. All right, and then we start to go into the content. All right, so we did the warm up, we did everything, the warm up, we got the blood flowing, we got the brain working. So now let's start tackling the content. So in the content, all right, this is about a 40 to 45 minute tutoring session. All right, while covering the subject material. So we're not going to not cover the subject material. The subject material will be covered first, and then everything else, as far as the master program, is that side piece. All right. So if you do a fast food reference, you have your meal, your burger, but then you have your sides on your side, which is your French fries on the side. So the master program is going to be your side, your side meal. You have your meat, you have your content, which is the meat, and then we're going to bring in your French fries. We'll bring in your side and your drinks with the master program. So content tutoring, we embed the skills coaching, which is about 40 to 45 minutes. While covering the subject material, we integrate executive function and strategies like planning and organizing. So this could be just simple using graphic organizers, color coding, making the checklist for note taking. So we're still doing the content, but now we're starting to talk about planning and organization. Then we start looking at task and initiation and focus. All right. So this might be just simple as us teaching the 5 minute rule. Let's start just for 5 minutes and let's tackle all the tough topics. The idea behind the 5 minute rule is that once the student begin, it's easier to keep going. It's start to reduce procrastination. It's starting to reduce the mental resistance. So by doing this, it breaks through the initial hesitation and builds momentum towards completing the work. So it might be just as simple as doing the 5 minute rule. Let's do the 5 minute rule. Let's get going. Oh, you ready? Okay, let's keep moving. It's been some sessions that I have a student now that love. I think she spent more time with her mentor coach than she do with her tutor, because the mentor coach she's building those skills with her, and she's understanding that, and she's starting to love it. She's starting to love the fact that now she know how to read and read for understanding. She know how to take notes on her reading. All right. So then we do stuff like the working memory support, which encourage summarization. So that working memory encourages summarization, getting students to summarize what they're doing, summarize why they're doing it, and how they're doing it. And then we look at self-monitoring. And all of this is inside of the content. So it's not just the content. We're adding in these executive function skills, these academic skills along with the content. So how confident do you feel? How confident does the student feel about the work that they're doing? And if you had to teach your peer, how would you teach your peer? So, how would you go about getting your peer to understand what you're trying to get them to understand? And then last, we talk study strategies. So we might do recall, spaced repetition. Might do annotation techniques. Instead of doing passive reading, we might, okay, let's annotate this. So we start doing study strategies near the end. And then at the end of the session, we wrap it up. We wrap it up, and then we talk about the next steps. The wrap up is about 5 to 10 minutes. So in about 5 to 10 minutes, we wrap up. We start with a reflection. All right. We have the student to identify one strategy that we talked about throughout the session that was useful. All right. And what will they do differently next time? All right. So we start talking about a strategy here. We want them to reflect. We want them to talk about and think about, what worked and what didn't work. And then we come up with an action plan. This action plan could be just as small as something simple as, review your notes 10 minutes a day using the Cornell method. So we're getting them to understand the Cornell method to note taking, and we also getting them to review their notes, right? Something that they probably was not doing before they came to the master program. They would just probably just read and close their book, or go to class, take notes, but don't pick the notebook back up until the next class period. So now we're getting them to, okay, I got to be committed, because now I got to read my notes 10 minutes each day, and I got to use this new method I just learned. All right. So we're getting them to start creating the action plan, and the goals are small. We're not setting major goals. We're not setting goals that they might not pass. They might not meet that goal. We are setting goals that's attainable. Those small goals, and then accountability. All right, we ask, how will you remind yourself to complete this task? Do you have an alarm? Do you have a planner? Do you have accountability partner? Do you have someone who's going to hold you accountable? Are you going to hold yourself accountable? So then we start talking about that. All right. So that is how we implement it inside of a tutoring session. Like I said, that tutoring session will go an hour. Definitely will go an hour. I here in my center, we have the 30-minute slots, but I never schedule a student for a 30 minutes tutoring slot. We need an hour, especially if I'm going to have my staff to start and to implement the master program, implementing these small nuggets inside of a tutoring session, right? So now we talk about data from a previous institution, where I used this form of the master program. Before coming to Durham Tech, I used this at a previous institution. And I use this with students as mentors. I had student mentors, and then I had myself as the mentor, as the master coach. But this program was used for a student that was on academic probation. So all of our students were academic probation, and then we had about 25% of our students were voluntary. They just wanted to come in because they needed help, right? So we held pod meetings with these students. I held pod meetings once a month. We had a set of 5 to 10 students in a pod, and the students helped hold the students accountable. And then each student had a peer mentor, which served as what I would say here at Durham Tech as my master coach. The peer mentor served as a master coach and met with the students every week. So in this program at this university, it was a small liberal university. We retained 82% of students who were on academic probation from fall to fall. So we did not lose those students. We retained those students. Those students came back and got back into good standards. We improved student return to good standards from spring to fall by 25%. All right. So from spring semester to the next fall semester, we improved the students who was on academic probation returned to good standards. All right. And then we generated a 0.72 average change in GPA students on academic probation. So we know when you're on academic probation, it is hard to get off. It is hard to see that next point on that GPA. So for us to generate an average of 0.72 change in GPA, that was, to me, that was success. We were really working with those students, and those students was really, really looking at their growth and really taking accountability and responsibility in their growth. All right. So this was at, like I said, a previous institution. So what I did last semester, fall semester in Durham Tech, I did a test group. So I had 4 students that I worked with here at Durham Tech as a test group before I started to build and to run this program in the fall of this coming year. So I implemented with, like I said, 4 students in fall 24. I currently have 1 student using the master program right now. All right. So three out of the 4 students remained in the course and earned an A or B. However, one student did withdraw. All right. However, the average final term GPA for the 3 students that were still in their program and finished with an A and B, the average GPA was a 3.34. And then this is a little note that I received from one of my students that was in the program that, I told myself I would share this note out every time I present. It says, thank you for everything that you have done to help me get through this semester. Without me coming to you and trying out new techniques, I probably would not have passed. That last statement right there is, I probably would not have passed. That tells me that that student, before she came to me and she met with me personally, like I say, I work with these 4 students myself, and before she came to me, to me it clearly showed that um, she did not have the motivation, and the confidence, and just learning new techniques, new techniques how to study. She was in a Surge Tech program, and so learning new techniques on how to learn those medical terms and how to really dig deep and study the medical field, really, gave her that motivation, gave her that push. And she actually graduated. She actually graduated this past year. So this year I will always keep, because that was my first student that I, ran the program here at Durham Tech. So I was excited about that. So let me see. So this is something that I want to leave you with here before I go. Students are the masters of their fate. Means that students have the power to shape their own academic and personal success through their choices, efforts, and mindset. This phase emphasizes personal responsibility, resilience, and the ability to overcome challenges by developing skills like time management, self-discipline, and problem solving. This phrase also aligns with the philosophy of the master program, reinforcing that students with the right support and strategies can take control of their educational journey and achieve the goals that they set for themselves. Students are the masters of their fate. Any questions?
Thank you so much. I really also just really love that last slide. I think that that's such a great thing to share. So I would encourage anybody from the audience, if you have a question for Dr. Hill and want to put it in the Q&A now, we can address it here in the last 5 minutes. Um, Dr. Hill, one question I had for you that I was just curious about. I was thinking about the building blocks that you shared during your presentation, and one of them, which I think is a pretty tough one, is grit. And I was just curious, like from your perspective, as well as what you've learned working with students, how do you instill students to have that grit? If you could just share a little bit about that.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think we necessarily instilled it in them. I think we put them in situations and to see what grit really looks like, right? And so they have to then take on the responsibility of, okay, I want to feel like this. I want to do this. So we just put them in situations. We highlight situations like, okay, you see this? Now, what would have happened if you did it this way? All right. And we let them make that choice. Okay, yeah, bam. So it's not like we're saying you got to have grit, you got to have grit, you got to have grit. We're not saying that. We're not saying, we're just putting them in situations and showing them and highlighting situations and opportunities and getting them to change the way they think about it, to change the way that they approach it. And by that, then it builds grit. So when you say us instilling it, we don't instill it. It's we just put them in situations to where they can start to build upon what they have, right?
I love that. So practice, right?
Yeah,
Can
practice.
build
Yes,
grit.
practice,
Yes.
practice.
Okay. We do have a couple questions. The first one is, how do you keep the momentum going forward with students if they start missing sessions or not following through?
All right. So when I first got into higher ed, I was trained in intrusive advising. So that's what I do. If a student, if the momentum's starting to fall, then I just start reaching out to the student, showing up, at the class, at the class when they get out of the class, if they're in the parking lot. I've had so many meetings at my previous institution. I've had so many meetings inside of the parking lot, where we went to the students and met with them in the parking lot because the motivation was just not there to them coming into the office. So it's really just meeting them. Hey, if it takes me going to the football, to the track field, because a lot of the students that was on academic probation was on. If it takes me going to the track field to to speak with you while you're exercising, while your team is doing this, then that's what we'll do. So just meeting them, not just really giving up and saying, okay, you didn't come to this session today, so we're just gonna wash our hands on you, because we know that they're in this program because they didn't have the motivation, because they are lacking the motivation. So we continue to allow them to lack the motivation. If we don't put forth another effort to meet them, to get them to understand how important it is, then they're going to be in the same program. They're going to be in the same boat next year, next semester. So yeah, just really pushing through with them.
Great, thank you. Our last question is, you might have mentioned this already, but did you say this program was voluntary or mandatory? And do you believe one way or the other is most effective?
Okay, so the program is both. The program is both. It can be mandatory. In my previous institution, it was mandatory for everyone who was on academic probation. Like I said, we had about 25% of our students, though, who were not on academic probation. They just saw they had a need and they came to us. So here at Durham Tech, it's all volunteer. If a student, well, we do have referral systems. So if an instructor refers a student to the Center for Academic Excellence because they have academic skills deficiency, or they saying them they need help with academic skills, so they refer them to tutoring, right? And so that is when I look at it and say, okay, let me triage this. Let me talk to the tutor and find out what's really going on. And once I talk with the tutor, and once I talk with the student, then if I triage and you need extra support, then I ask the student, do you mind working with with a tutor each week on this? So then it becomes voluntary. Now we get students that's referred, but they're not referred to the program because the program is not a full implemented program yet at Durham Tech. All right, so I'm using this in the realm of my tutoring center. So I'm putting students to the side who I know that need help with academic skills and executive function skills, and I'm putting them into the program to give them that help.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for presenting all of this information. We greatly appreciate all of the insights that you shared today. So we are actually at the end of our day. And Dr. Hill, if you want to stop sharing, we'll actually let Melvin take over for our closing session.
All right. Well, it's great to finally make it to the end of another presentation. Thank you so much, Dr. Hill, for your presentation here. For those of you all who don't know, Dr. Hill just recently got his doctorate, so we're really excited and proud for him for achieving that accomplishment. Durham Tech was actually one of our first partners many moons ago, and so certainly seeing the growth that Dr. Hill has been able to provide with CAE, and the new tools that he continues to create to support students, has been really remarkable to see. So thanks again for closing out our presentation. I think ending with you definitely was a good decision there. But for everyone, thanks for attending our 10th annual Equity in Education Conference. We have another one in the books. Thanks to everyone for participating in the conference, particularly the speakers and the panelists. Um, I just wanted to reach out and say thanks to Dr. Adrian Hagerbrook, our keynote from this morning, Lu Duong, who recorded the video that we unfortunately weren't able to play, but that we'll share with you all afterwards. Dr. De La Tea, Dr. Daryl Hilton, Ms. Westry, Dr. Ortega, Dr. Locke, Ms. Courtney Lowry, Dr. O'Bannon, and Ms. Cloud, and of course, Dr. Hill. I'm ending this here as well. When I originally started Upswing with my co-founder Alex, I didn't know how passionate others were within this space as well. I only knew that I wanted to make life a little bit different, and perhaps a little bit better for students that grew up in my hometown, as I was talking about this morning. This conference clearly highlights just how many others there are who are similarly motivated to work on the hard but rewarding work of supporting our first generation online and non-traditional students. The ones who have earnestly worked to get to get to that credential at the end. And so if there's a takeaway that I'd leave for others here, it's that the change and the impact that we're seeking, doesn't erupt with a bang. It's methodical. It emerges as a result of the deliberate and sometimes silent, but nevertheless unyielding work of hundreds of people just like you who are doing so many of these wonderful initiatives and actions and activities every single day. And that's how we achieve change. That's how we deliver the impact for our students. And the more voices that we can have around this table, joining the work and helping us to tackle this need, the closer we're going to get to achieving that true equity in education. And so, thank you all for all of your hard work as well. And we look forward to being able to connect with you again next year. A couple of final reminders. We will be sending out all the recordings from the presentations via email. I saw a couple of questions come in about the slides. We'll reach out to the presenters just to make sure that those are shareable, and then we can make sure that you guys get those as well. Also, the professional development certificates that we do every year, those will be sent out via email as well. You don't need to have to request those. We'll make sure that those get out to you as long as you registered for the conference. We will be sharing a feedback form, a feedback survey about this conference. We love getting your feedback. As Elena mentioned earlier, the feedback around the interactivity was part of what led to us wanting to create the workshop that we had this year. So the more insights and feedback that you can provide to us, the better we can make sure to serve you in next year's conference as well. And then finally, if you have any other questions or anything that we may have missed or that you'd want to talk about, feel free to contact us. You can reach us at info@upswing.io, or you can reach me personally. My email's right here, melvin@upswing.io as well. But with that, I want to say thank you all once again for attending this conference, and we look forward to seeing you all next year. Take care.